Hello, I wanted to jump on here and do a 1 month Adderall update. I just did a live on my channel regarding my diagnosis of ADHD and post-bariatric surgery and kind of how those things kind of all correlate. And I wanted to make an actual video, not just a live, but like an actual video specifically in regards to the medication that I'm taking for my ADHD at age 42 after a month, and kind of give you an update. Before I was diagnosed, well, while I was looking into diagnosis and treatment for possible ADHD, I needed to get diagnosed first. I followed a lot of creators on TikTok, and people were talking about like Vicent or something like that. That was like a big one. And Adderall, and I heard a lot of like really negative things about that, and I've had some friends who have had issues with Adderall, and so it was like people were saying like, oh, it's illegal meth, and I'm going, I don't want to do meth, like I'm not trying to like be an addict. So I was kind of scared. So I looked at YouTube just for like treatment options and like what people were saying, and just to educate myself. So wanted to put that out there for anybody that's looking into treatment. Obviously, you need to talk with your doctor. Everybody's completely different. There's different forms of ADHD, and it manifests itself differently in everybody's body. Everybody's body metabolizes things differently, and so you are going to want to work with your psychologist for a proper diagnosis and the medication that is going to fit and suit you. Both my sons have been diagnosed with ADHD, and they both take a medication called Strattera. Our oldest son has more of an ADD, where it's the inattentive type, so he'll get like lost in his head, and will hyperfocus on things. Both kids will hyperfocus on stuff, but our youngest is definitely more like myself, where he's hyperactive, and I'll see the ADHD manifest in ways that are more impulsive, and could almost be deemed as like what's the word, like he's being mean or rude, or like he gets overstimulated. If we have a lot of people and he's an extrovert, we'll have people over and he's kind of on and doing really well, and then all of a sudden he's like done with energy. But they use a medication called Strattera, which is a form of a stimulant, but takes a long time to build up. And so I got properly diagnosed, I found out I was very high on the spectrum of ADHD, which then as I did more research, I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense. You do have to have a diagnosis before the age of 12, which is like almost impossible for most women, because at my age, at 42, the only thing they were really giving at our age was Ritalin, and it was basically to make little boys sit in their chairs. There has obviously since been a lot more research that has been done, and they're realizing that there's a lot of women out there that are misdiagnosed as like anxiety and depression, eating disorders, all kinds of stuff that is manifesting, but what they're really dealing with like an overactive mind and some neurodivergent behavior issues. So my doctor and I decided to start with a medication called Adderall. It is a black label drug. I was very anxious about starting that, just again because of some of the negative connotations that are out there. But I said, let's give her a go. I had a really hard time getting it paid for and approved by my pharmacy, because it wasn't a pre-existing diagnosis. So she actually had originally put me on Adderall XL, which is a slow release. I think it was like 20 milligrams or something, and then it releases throughout the day. And then we decided, you know what, actually, because of insurance issues, she's like, let's do the fast acting one, where it's like in and out of your system really quickly. And I'm so glad we had those insurance issues, because then the more research I did, I realized actually the fast acting, I think, works better for me anyway. So what I learned the first day that I took the Adderall was, number one, wow, I for sure have ADHD, because my hyperactivity is mental, and I do tend to hear voices in my head, and I don't mean that as negative or weird or anything that could be perceived like that, because we're all different. What I mean is that I when I'm working through problems, when having kind of conversations and rehashing conversations maybe with clients, or I have a project to do, I will talk to myself in my head and I hear my voice. Apparently that's like not everyone. My husband doesn't hear a voice. He just sees pictures and symbols, and that's how he thinks. Our designer, same way. Our boys do hear the voices. I mentioned this to my doctor, and my doctor was like, wait, not everybody has an inner monologue. And I'm like, apparently not. It's pretty fascinating. Love to chat with you if you don't have an inner monologue, because I'm so fascinated to hear how you think. But the biggest thing that I noticed day one in taking a fast-acting Adderall, I took 10 milligrams, and then the dosage for me, just so you're aware, on the fast-acting was 20 milligrams in the morning and then 10 in the afternoon, just to kind of like allow me to keep focusing as I need it. And I take it PRN, which means as needed. I don't have to take it every single day. It doesn't build up in my system. So if there's days that like I don't necessarily feel like I need to take my medication, I won't. Because there are some side effects, and I will talk about that. But the first day, I just noticed my inner monologue was quiet. I didn't realize that what I had perceived as anxiety was actually just flighty thoughts that were going through my mind and distracting me. And I just couldn't get anything completely done. So I had like all these fires burning, and I was constantly trying to put fires out because of my inability to complete a freaking task. And so the first day, it was just like, holy crap, it's super quiet up here, and now I can actually have a thought and complete the thought, and that's like really awesome. If you're my age and have never realized that you weren't able to complete a single thought because of your ADD, not realizing it was ADD. Sorry, I got to plug in my phone here. This is annoying. You would think I would do this before I make a video, but this is just how I roll, people. So that was my first day on it. And, I don't necessarily take full dosages every single day. But what I do, oops, that's annoying. Sorry. What I do notice is that when I don't take my medication, I feel anxiety more. And I tend to eat more, which is not necessarily a bad thing, because when I do take my medication, I will go all day without eating, just because I'm putting this on my bariatric channel. So obviously, I've had bariatric surgery 11 years ago, the vertical sleeve gastrectomy. So I don't actually feel hunger even without medication, just because they pulled out that portion of my stomach. So if you put that with Adderall, which is an appetite suppressant, and I'm now able to like focus on a task and not like use eating as a distraction, I will on accident like go all day without eating. So because of like a month post being on Adderall and being post bariatric surgery, 11 years, I've actually lost, I think we're close to 15 pounds in like a month. And that's not necessarily a good thing. I'm not saying that as like use Adderall to lose weight, because like that's not healthy. So what I have decided, and I've worked with my doctor on this, and I've talked a little bit with my husband on it, is if there's certain days that I don't necessarily need to have the Adderall in order to focus, and use some of the other compensatory strategies that I've been using for 42 years, because obviously like I have other strategies, I do notice I eat more. Another thing that I've noticed in the last month is like the days I do take my medication. So I'll take it like 9 o'clock in the morning or 8 o'clock in the morning, my 20 milligrams. And then I'll take my other 10 milligrams around 12 or 1. Anything past 2, good luck falling asleep. Like, even though Adderall does calm my distractibility and my conversations and like all my flighty thoughts that happen, because it's just loud and busy up here. What I notice is that in the evening, I do more evening eating. So it's like the Adderall, because I do the fast acting, right? So within 6 hours of my last dose, it's pretty much out of my system because it's not the slow release. So that'll be like 9 o'clock, and all of a sudden I'm like, I should eat. And I'll have more what I call head hunger versus like actual physical hunger. Or I might feel a little weak because I went all day without eating. So My stomach doesn't growl or anything like a normal person's does, just because of my weight loss surgery. But I'll eat, and it's not necessarily the healthy food. It's usually carbs and sugars, because that releases a dopamine response, and that's yummy, and that's instant gratification. And because I've had bariatric surgery, I notice that I tend to go for like foods that are really flavorful, because I can only eat a little bit. Or it goes down my sleeve really easily, so then I can eat more because I just want to eat, because I'm using food inappropriately. So a big thing with the Adderall is, it, for me, as somebody who has a hyperactive mind, is I will be able to focus on tasks that are kind of considered mundane. So for instance, emails, sitting there and actually getting through my emails, working on my web design, things that are just like not exciting for me, I can actually get them done. That being said, I will sometimes hyper focus on things that are not productive. So just because you have medication doesn't mean you're going to be necessarily more productive in the ways that you need to be. So for instance, I'll take my medication and I'm like, I like really love paint by numbers. And I always have it at my desk. And like 3 hours will pass and I've been painting, which is great because I can sit there and paint for 3 hours. But like, I was actually supposed to do 15 other things, and my employees are calling me going, Chris, why did you not do this other stuff we asked you to do? And I'm like, oh, because I was like super focused on this thing, and that's an ADHD thing. So I've had to be intentional in like, if I'm taking my medication today, what are the 5 things that I need to get done in completion, even if they're boring, and my medication is just a tool to help me get those things done. And what am I going to eat today? And where am I going to put it so I don't forget? Because now that I'm able to focus on a task, sometimes I'm like focused on that task, and because I don't feel hunger and I don't have head hunger with Adderall, I won't eat and I won't drink. And you have to drink. That was one of the biggest side effects I noticed, is like I had dry mouth constantly. And that's why Adderall can destroy your teeth, by the way. When I was doing some research and I was concerned about like having some of these side effects, and tooth decay was one of the big things. Like, I'm kind of proud of my teeth. I like my teeth and I don't want to lose my teeth. And it's because you're not producing as much saliva. You get dry mouth. And so you have to like really make sure you're drinking a lot of like not just liquids, but like water liquids, and like really try to avoid sugary substances that'll stick to your teeth, because the mucus is not being produced as much, and the saliva is not there to wash it off. Or just be also really diligent maybe about brushing your teeth 3 or 4 times throughout the day, just to make sure that you don't deal with tooth decay. But, I've had people say like, are you glad you got medication? Like, do you think that it's helped you? Something I'm going to say specifically to women, not that this doesn't pertain to men, but I have never been a man, so I can't speak for y'all. Would I do it again? The answer is absolutely. Like, getting help for my ADHD, and specifically this medication, for me has been an answer to prayer. Like, it was truly like, it's a tool, but that's all it is. Just like my bariatric surgery was a tool, medication is a tool, and just like anything, you can abuse a tool. So I only take it as prescribed, and if I don't feel like I need it for a day, I won't take it, so that I make sure I eat a little bit more and don't lose weight excessively and too quickly and unhealthily like I have in the past. So I do notice that it does release a dopamine response, and it's not a high. It is, and it's not even like, it's not like a euphoria, but it is a little bit of a euphoria. But it's only the euphoria that I sense of just like, I feel happy. And I felt that same feeling every time I drank coffee. I noticed I'd have like 2 or 3 shots of espresso. And this was before my diagnosis. And I'm like, why am I always so happy after I have my espresso? And it's because it was releasing dopamine. I didn't realize that that's what caffeine did. I get the same response, and probably more, with Adderall. And it does help me get my day started and stay focused and take a shower and like do what I need to do. So like I said, things that I had masked thinking it was like anxiety and depression, it was actually ADHD undiagnosed. So this medication has helped with that. Will I change it to maybe a slow releasing? Personally, I don't want to, only because I've heard stories of people having withdrawal symptoms. I've heard stories of people where they're like, it's not ever out of your body. So you're like, you become almost dependent on it. And like you need more in order for it to work. I don't know if that's true or not. I just know for me, because I'm using it as a tool, I'm going to stick with the fast acting pills and take them as needed. I do like that I've lost a little bit of weight. I'm going to be honest about that. That's kind of been awesome just because I was up to about 206, 208, and I'm down to like the low 190s. But I am trying to keep myself in check and make sure that I don't misuse Adderall as a way to lose weight, and that I am staying healthy, because that's ultimately for my mental health. That's what I need to do. And I'm trying to be a good example to my children of like ways we can use medications as a tool, but that we don't become dependent, or that we don't use other compensatory strategies in order to be successful in life. So it definitely did not fix my ADHD. It just quieted my mind. It allowed me to concentrate, and sometimes on the wrong things. So that's been funny. And it's quieted like all of this stuff. And I'm excited to see what happens in like, say, 6 months. I would definitely say like day one, I noticed big changes. A month out, I'm thrilled I started it. And I'll post on my channel about Adderall and my experiences with it. We just started, well, we got a prescription for the son that's like me. For Adderall, for fast acting, same stuff, just take 10 milligrams in the afternoon, because he just does Strattera in the morning. And I've been apprehensive about giving it to him, to be honest. So he hasn't had it yet. I'm just holding his script just because I'm not sure how with kids, just because, I don't know, I just don't want my kids to become dependent on stuff. So if you have any thoughts on that, I'd love to hear them, good, bad, or indifferent. Just wanted to give you guys a 1 month update post new script, new diagnosis, and kind of where I'm at with that. So thanks.